What's up, you guys? So I had been wearing this face all day. I haven't touched up at all, but I kind of wanted to show you how to do a heavier contour for going out. I'm going to be using this really cool Studio Fix concealer. As you can tell, there's a hole in this color here. It's one of my favorite shades. So genuinely, what you want to do is you want to make sure you put primer on your skin. My skin is a little dewy right now, which is great because it's gonna blend my concealers nicely together. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a darker concealer first around my neck to kind of hide my little double chin. I'm just gonna bring it down. If you have like fake tanner, or if you have a tanner on your skin, it works a lot better to blend in. So I'm just blending in a tone that is a little darker. And just kind of feathered it on to see how dark I can go. So I'm gonna use a pretty deep shade. And I'm gonna kind of start closer to my temple, and if you can't see it on camera, then I'm gonna go a little darker. I'm gonna start here where I smile. I'm gonna go behind my cheekbone and just push up. The cool thing is since I'm already wearing makeup, it is gonna blend in really nicely because I wore it all day. And essentially my skin is a little oily, so it's gonna blend perfectly. So I'm gonna go into those little valleys of my skin and just kind of blend it in with a brush. Where I have a little highlighter in between my eyebrow, that should still stay nice and highlighted. I'm lightly feathering this around for a nice dramatic effect. I'm blending it into my hairline because nobody likes a harsh line. A little more drama. Now I'm gonna go with a deeper shade just so I could chisel out my bone structure. So I'm gonna go in here where my hairline is and just kind of create a nice little shadow and a little tiny bit back here by my beard. This is gonna help push up my face a little. I'm gonna use the concealer that I was using prior to that. I'm gonna blend this out. It kind of just creates a little bit of shadow. Blend this in too. And to the other side, I really like to create a dark effect on my forehead when I wear a beanie. So I use a darker concealer and use my fingertip. Bring it all over, like so. Really work that in there. And you can kind of see how much I used. I'm gonna blend it down. And you kind of want to keep the center of your face here a little bit brighter, and your under eye, of course, the middle of your face where your nose is as well. Push back my cheeks so they could look higher. You kind of want to brush up so the color kind of stays in its place. You never want to get a big brush and fan it out unless you don't have facial hair and you kind of want a nice well blended airbrush look. I'm doing a little bit more contour in certain areas, so I'm just using it strategically. I also love to do my lips, so I go underneath. And connect it to my contour, and also above. This is all underneath my nose, so it's gonna just photograph really well. Go ahead and blend it in with my brush. If you notice, I'm just going behind and underneath my cheekbones, not on them. So it gives you a really nice airbrush effect to your skin. When doing your nose, you can do it in so many ways. I just kind of like go on the sides of my nose, underneath my nose, and just kind of blend it out with that same little brush. I'm gonna lightly feather in my eye socket with the darker shade and flick it out. So I noticed that for me, the best thing to do when you're baking your skin is to use a lot of product. Otherwise, if you don't use a lot of it, when you lay down your concealer and you barely put any and you put a lot more powder, it's gonna crack out and dry out. So as you can tell, I've been wearing my makeup all day, so my skin still kind of looks dewy, which is great. And brush this all out. The thing that I've realized is when you brush out your contour and your concealer, when you bake it, it's gonna look really smooth and flawless. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm gonna go back and put a little bit of light back into my skin. I'm using a lighter shade of the concealers. And I'm gonna use, since I already used concealer, I'm gonna use the yellow corrector in here and mix it with the peach corrector and go underneath my eyes. Just really lightly. The center of my face. Cool. Now I'm gonna use my brush that I used this morning and blend out that. So I have a tendency of smiling when I do this because I wanna see where I wanna brighten up. And the Beauty Blender is great to blend in your concealers because it is just blending and just pressing it into your skin versus using a brush and having it be scattered all over your face. This is just kind of blending it into the areas where you already applied it. I'm gonna hold out my beanie, just a smidge. Got a little bit of makeup up there, that's okay. And now I'm gonna go ahead and bake my under eyes with that powder. I'm actually gonna use Revolution powder because it's close to the regular banana powder and it's yellow, so it just works for my skin. Little finger mark. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead, I always use my hand and roll that sponge. And I'm just gonna place it underneath my eyes. And bring it up. I usually get really oily around my nose, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that as well. This gives you a really nice smooth finish, and I really like how the skin turns out. I'm gonna use a makeup wipe and get that little fingerprint. I can't smack my lips, but that was my attempt. Right. So I'm gonna go in with the Laura Mercier powder now, and it's a little bit brighter. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of go in my insides here, and the center of my nose. Basically where I want it to be a little bit brighter than anywhere else should be my under eye by my nose. And then I just kind of blend it all in that area. It'll give you a nice bright look. I'm gonna use a little brush and just kind of fan on some bronzer. Excuse me if I am too close to you. So I always have loved to use the MAC Give Me Sun Bronzer. And I'm just gonna apply it over the darker contour shade and kind of blend it into the lighter shade. So it just blends in smoothly. And boom, voila. Now that that's finished, I am gonna highlight my skin. And I'm gonna use a beauty blender. And I'm gonna go ahead and use Artist Couture's Illuminati. And I'm just gonna do it on my peaks of my cheeks. But I'm gonna charge up this sponge. So I'm gonna put it right here and on my eyebrow. I'm just gonna blend that in. This kind of gives you a really ultra hydrated look to your skin, and it kind of gives you that wet kind of effect. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. So instead of bringing it all the way over here and all the way on the sides, I'm just gonna put it on this super high peak here. And into my eyebrow. And just kind of blend it in just that little area. I kind of even bring it up close to my under eye. And last but not least, I'm gonna get that bronzer and bring it into the inner corners of my eye socket to help frame my face. And I'm wearing white because I wanted you guys to see how natural it can look, even though it's super heavy. And for those of you that need to hide their double chin like me, you could go in with a darker shade there as well with concealer. And then kind of use plenty so you could see. I'm using the darker shade and just kind of brushing it all into my double chin. And it kind of just hides it. So you can see the reflection there, it's gonna hide with that dark shade. And I'm using this really, really dark shade here. You could see it when I put it on here. This is naturally where there should be shadow on your face anyway, so it's not really noticeable to the public, but it does help that double chin disappear. You just kind of want to brush it out so it's not really noticeable. So if you kind of do a circular application, if you don't have a beard, you would just bring it around underneath your jawline. And there, I just lost 10 pounds. And my skin's super dewy. I'm gonna go ahead and touch up my eyebrows and just kind of add filler where I added a little more highlighter. And boom.